First of all, thank you very much. This is my first CEO Summit. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. I've really enjoyed hearing the great speakers so far. I'm going to pick up on a bit of a thread from our previous speaker as well. In 2017, a company called Walker Information partnered with the Chief Executive magazine, which I imagine is what you read at home in the evenings, to conduct a study with about 550 CEOs. And this is the question that they were looking to answer. They were asking CEOs, what is your most effective method for creating competitive advantage? Now, maybe some of you were amongst the study cohort, maybe not. Imagine for a second that they were asking you this question. What is your most effective method for creating competitive advantage? These are the results that came back, and I think Michael would be very disturbed to find that digital isn't on there at all. But I'm quite happy to see customer experience out there far ahead of components like talent, product, efficiency, and brand, and in particular pricing. In fact, the study found that by 2020, customer experience will overtake price and product as a key brand differentiator. Now, this is excellent news for me because this is my line of work, working with companies to try to understand what their customers are expecting of them, what that experience is like, and how they can improve that. That's my bread and butter. But what does that mean for CEOs? What does that mean for organizations? How can you make sure that your organization has a customer experience that's fit for purpose, especially as I'm sure you probably know, expectations around customer experience are just rising and rising all the time. The study published these very useful characteristics of a customer-focused CEO, and I think there are some useful things in there. So using insights strategically seems like a fairly sensible thing to do. Understanding the broader customer story also on its face seems fairly sensible. Coordinating across silos, well, we're all trying to do that better all the time, aren't we? And encouraging empathy. I don't know about you, but I would put empathy up as probably one of the buzzwords for 2018, and it's still going strong in 2019 as well. But how do we take these characteristics and turn them into practical, concrete actions that we in our companies can apply to improve the products and services and how our customers are experiencing those? These are kind of a little bit hand-wavy and like platitudes. So today what I'd like to do is share a particular program that we've been using at Atlassian to take some of these really great concepts of customer centricity and understanding the full customer story and working across silos and finding ways to really practically put those into play. I'm fairly sure probably most people here have heard of Atlassian, but I think it's like one of those little dirty secrets that loads of people have no idea what we actually do. So let me help you with that today. Atlassian's mission is to unleash the potential of every team, and we are trying to do that particularly through helping teams to communicate and to collaborate more effectively. And we believe that open work, teams working openly together, is the secret sauce that really helps teams be very much more effective in the work that they do together. We are interested in all teams and an amazing array of different kinds of teams, from marketing and HR through to finance and even risk management, are using our software to help manage their teamwork. But we do have a very special soft spot for technology teams, for teams who are running IT, for teams who are designing, building, and supporting software. And one of the biggest products that we have is very widely used by software teams. In fact, if you have a software team in your organization, there's a fair chance they're using this software. This is called Jira, and this is what Atlassian is best known for. And each of those little cards on the page there represent a piece of work, and Jira helps teams to collaborate on and distribute that work across the team and help that open communication and that ability to see who's doing what and what's coming up much clearer. It also integrates with a lot of kind of fancy technical stuff too, which the teams really like. This is my team. This is the research and insights team. We're distributed across the globe. And in this team, we have some really interesting backgrounds. So we have people with an anthropology background, psychology backgrounds. We have marketing research people and design research people. And we use Jira as well. We spend a lot of time talking to our customers, ingesting customer feedback, making sense of what our customers are saying and trying to do, and that makes us very kind of empathetic to that. But actually, this is the real purpose that we have. We're really focused on trying to make sure that the investments that Atlassian is making in terms of where it's putting its time and its people are going to be successful. And we're also looking to identify opportunities. Where can we go in the future? Where else could we be successful? We do this by looking at 3 main areas. So first of all, and I think the most important one is we're making sure that our organization really deeply understands the need that we're trying to solve for people. So why are people coming to us? Most people aren't coming to us specifically because they want Jira. That's part of a larger story. It could be that they're in the middle of setting off on a big digital transformation journey, and this is one of the tools that they need to be able to enable that journey. There are many reasons, many very particular needs that people have, and it's important that we understand our customers' real need and the fact that that's probably not actually specifically our product. Our product is a solution to the need. The other thing that we're looking at is we're really trying to understand the pain points. Again, something that was mentioned earlier today. So when interacting with us, when trying to understand how to acquire products from us, how to use our products, when you have problems with products, all of those experiences that people have, where is the pain? And how can we take that away? How can we make that experience much more rewarding and ideally kind of delightful? And then the third thing is, where are the new opportunities? In understanding those needs better, how can we see gaps that we haven't yet met or that our competitors haven't yet met? Where is the future? And we are contributing to this body of knowledge by using research methods, a whole range of research methods. We do formative and evaluative research, we do qualitative and quantitative research, and we do tactical as well as longitudinal research. So getting that mix right is really very important. As I was thinking of coming and talking to you today, I was imagining to myself, if I was a CEO and I knew everything that I know about research, what would I be worried about if I were you? And it's this thing, it's called the query effect. I wonder if any of you have ever heard of the query effect. It's a little bit niche. It's this general idea though. You can get people to fill out a survey or come to a focus group or answer questions in an interview about just about anything. You can get rich, interesting, insightful information, and the only thing that you won't necessarily know is that it doesn't actually matter in the slightest. So how do you feel confident that all your amazing insights that look so encouraging and so interesting are actually about stuff that matters to customers? And I think this is one of the biggest gotchas that organizations have when it comes to utilizing research. It is so easy to get stuck in this validation mode where you're validating your existing products, your existing ideas, the things that you want to be true for the future, the things that you want to believe. You can get all kinds of information to validate how you think right now. And the thing about this research is it's very appealing. It feels very important to the business, and also it feels very actionable. It feels like you can do stuff about it because it's almost invariably about stuff that you can control. But it also can give you a very skewed view of what you think the customer's experience is compared to what their actual experience, what their actual needs, what they really care about is. And so instead, what we always want to be trying to do is research for discovery. We want to be always checking to make sure that the customer is at the center of the study question, not our products, not our organization, not the things that we want to believe to be true. Now, we get a lot of pushback on this kind of research a lot of the time. And people, the thing that you want to say when you want to insult a researcher the most is you say, well, those insights are not actionable. And you say that a lot of the time because the things that you learn are outside of your control. And yes, absolutely, that makes it difficult to act on, and it makes it uncomfortable. But it's also a much richer and more accurate picture of reality. So you want to be trying to avoid focusing in and making sure that you're scoping your research only for things that you can act on. You want to make sure that you are also seeing the rest of the picture, the competitors, the other things that are going on around your product and your experience. Now, the way that we do that at Atlassian is that we use a methodology called top tasks. It's a very simple name for a very useful methodology, and it was developed by this guy, Jerry McGovern, over a decade ago. It's been widely used in many organizations since then. And this is a really great way for us to make sure that when we're doing this research, it's product agnostic and it's putting the customer at the center of the question, and it helps us to make sure that we can really trust that what we think is important is actually important to our end users. Jerry discovered that actually, it turns out, for the vast majority of products and services, there is usually a very small number of tasks that customers consider to be deeply important, very important. And yet, commonly in organizations, we spend a huge amount of time and effort working on what Jerry would call tiny tasks, little additional features, little kind of edge cases. And so often in organizations, we don't really understand what those top tasks are, and we're not investing in continually improving them, even though those are the things that could have the greatest impact to customer experience. Now, the methodology on its face is actually fairly simple, and Jerry's written a book, there's loads of stuff on the internet that you can use to follow this methodology. You simply identify the tasks, you run a large-scale study to get people to tell you which of those are important, and then you do benchmarking. So you're measuring what that experience is like in your organization. You can do this against your competitors as well. It's super useful. And through that, you'll identify ways that you can improve that experience. And we go back and recheck our experience every 6 months to check that as we're making changes, we're actually improving the experience. Now, this one has the gotcha as well. It's super important that when you're coming up with those lists of tasks, you're doing it from a customer-centric mindset and not from a product-centric mindset. It's very common when people do these kinds of activities, they still come at it from a product point of view instead of a customer point of view. So when we were first trying to do this with Jira, the team was trying to convince us that creating these little cards and moving them around the screen was the most important thing you could do in Jira. But that's the very product-centered way of thinking about things. And so what we needed to do is we needed to do a big mindset shift and move away from what do you do when you're in Jira to what matters most when you're developing software. And you can feel that shift, away from the product centricity to really understanding, like, what is it that people are trying to do with our software. When we ran the top task methodology using this framing instead of the product framing, we got a very interesting list of top tasks. Some of them were pretty predictable, and that's good. It would have been worrying if they were all completely unexpected. But there were a few in there that we hadn't anticipated. In fact, our top task, not a single person in our company, I wager, would have guessed as the top task. To the point that my team were like, oh my God, is this really true? And we went back and back and back and analyzed and reanalyzed the information until we were 100% confident that this unexpected top task was in fact the thing. And once we were confident in that, it revealed this big amount of opportunity for us to act. So what we were able to do then is we were able to look at this audience group that came forward in the top tasks, who we really had completely underestimated. And we could go and have a look at their experience and go, oh gosh, actually that's not good. That must be why we're getting such bad satisfaction scores from that particular audience. But that was a complete blind spot for us. So as well as having the ability to make those fast tactical changes, we can then also look and go, right, if this is so important, we need to understand this area much better than we do right now. There's probably a whole bunch of opportunities in us to be able to innovate and grow into this space and support this opportunity in a more meaningful way. And this is how the top tasks, starting from these very kind of broad sense of what people are coming to our products to do, can break down into very actionable tasks that can help you improve your product and service right now, but also reveal opportunities for the future. And so top task for us is the foundation upon which all of our customer information is built. So we have our HATS, our happiness tracking survey. That includes our top tasks. That allows us to measure the customer satisfaction against those tasks on a regular basis. We're doing these regular usability benchmarking so we can see whether or not the experience that people are having is materially improving over time or not. And we're able to instrument these tasks with our product analytics that lets us see in real time how people are trying to achieve this. And all of this combined gives us a really good view of what's important so that we can be sure that we're focusing on things that will actually deliver customer experience improvements. And with that, we hope, build more customer love. Now, there is just one thing I wanted to say while I had all of you in the room. This is a quote that I have on a poster by my desk in the office. This is kind of an important thing. Again, I think this is almost like the researcher's catchphrase. Because the reality is, if you are doing this research well, you will find out things that you probably didn't want to be true. But these are very important things to know. It has been my experience in organizations that very often it's difficult to come to senior executives and give them these uncomfortable truths. And in the organization, we see that people who come with good news are celebrated and rewarded, and people who have bad news are usually told to either make it go away or make it much more palatable. And this is a top-down phenomenon. And so this is why I think CEOs have a huge opportunity to model openness to hearing hard truths. To encourage your organization to speak truth to power. It won't be fun a lot of the time hearing the things that you will hear, but it's incredibly important information. And I think you can model for your organization how hearing bad news allows you still to be optimistic, still to be resilient, and still to sort of power forward into change. And people are often worried that bad news is just going to bring the morale down. You can change that. You can set that agenda. So, 3 things to consider. The first one, I think, is, are you close enough to the work? Given how important customer experience is for all of our organizations, how much do you know about what's happening to really deeply understand that? How close are you to knowing what the experience for your customers is? I think this is something that very often has been kind of boxed off over in a department somewhere under marketing. I think we need to make sure that we're bringing it in really close. Second of all, are you confident? Think back to that query effect. When you're reading the research reports, how confident are you that the information that you're getting is actually the information that's most important to your customer's experience? And thirdly, can you handle the truth? Does everybody in your organization know that it's their job to really seek the truth? Are they commissioning the hard research? Are they delivering the tough news up the line? Or are they just failing to do the research and sugarcoating everything? You need to have this full picture, the good and the bad, in order to be able to have insights to develop a customer experience that can be a truly differentiating factor for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Leisa. Hit us up on Twitter, #CEO Summit for any questions you've got for Leisa. Now, by way of introducing our next speaker, can I just put it out there that I had a significant birthday last week. Yep, I turned 50 last week, and I know what you're thinking. It's incredible, isn't it? I've had no work done, absolutely nothing. But like most 50-year-olds, I'm starting to feel a little bit out of touch with the youth of today. Just a couple of days I was driving down from the Central Coast to Sydney with my 11-year-old daughter, and we were playing music in the car, and we were alternating. I'd choose a song, she'd choose a song, I'd choose a song, she'd choose a song. I put on an absolute classic from a few years ago, and I asked my daughter if she had any idea who the band was. No, Dad, no idea. I said, okay, I'll give you a hint. The band name has sort of 2 parts. It's something you can listen to music on and a part of your body that's above the shoulders. So she thinks about it for a few seconds. She says, are they called phone nose? No. Are they called Spotify ears? No, dear, they're called radio head. I've never heard of them, Dad. So it's fair to say I don't communicate all that well with young people. But we don't have to worry because our next speaker is a leading international voice on Gen Z. She's one of the very best going around and interpreting social trends, demographics and the implications of generational change. You've seen her on The Drum, The Project, Today Show, Sky News, Sunrise Morning Show, as well as on the radio and in the print media. You might have read her bestseller, Hello Gen Z, Engaging the Generation of Post-Millennials. You might even be here today representing one of the hundreds of Australian companies that she has advised on the behaviour of Gen Z. So here to talk, not surprisingly, on the topic of Hello Gen Z, from the back of the room, please welcome Claire Madden.
Thank you so much, Adam, and such a joy to be with you as we do unpack a little bit about this emerging cohort of our employees and customers, Generation Z. We've been hearing about how so much has been changing, and it is so rapid that it's sometimes hard to keep up with. I see it in my everyday sort of things. Like, I was thinking back to when I was at high school, and our maths teacher would say things to us like, you need to learn how to do this without a calculator because you will not be carrying one around in your back pocket everywhere you go. Who was told something like that? And now who carries a calculator with you everywhere you go? In fact, maybe it's a bit of insight into some generational differences. I explained this recently at another conference, and an older gentleman came up to me and said, I had no idea that my phone has a calculator in it. So there you go. In this same kind of era, the mid-90s, it was when we started using the internet, but not like 5G like we were just hearing about, but the good old dial-up. Don't you remember the days of dial-up where you would try and have that, that good connection was when that sound worked, and it was when Yahoo looked like this? Remember? They were the days. I remember my patience was so much greater than what it is now. I remember that I was just stoked that I could plug in and use the internet and didn't have to go to the library to find the information, but I could just find it there. And so for me, and also no doubt for you, you were just so happy that it was all there on this machine and we could just dial up, that it didn't matter when signs like this would come up. Estimated time left, just 39 years. You'd think, okay, no worries. You'd leave the room, make a cup of tea, you'd come in and you'd be like stoked that there were only 18 years left. You're like, this thing's moving fast today. Oh, the times have changed. Now if you get the buffering signal on your computer or on your phone for a moment, it takes 3 seconds to load. You're like, technology these days. Pretty amazing. You think what our little Gen Alphas, so they're the ones that are born since 2010, well, they're growing up in such a technologically immersed world where technology is mediating so much of their communication, even from an early age where they often get given an iPad in the pram. But those Gen Alphas, they won't know the unique relationship between these two items. Why you needed that pen or pencil when listening to a cassette tape. But I think as CEOs, it's not just the technology that we're trying to grapple with and keep up with and make sure that we're up to date with, but it's also what it's actually done to the perspectives, to the attitudes, to indeed even perhaps the work ethic of these emerging generations that we're grappling with. Obviously, a key competitive advantage for any of our businesses is to have a motivated and highly engaged workforce. And the challenge as a CEO is, well, how do we do that? And how do we do it with all the generations that we've got to somehow engage in our workforces today, when really you've got your builders at one end, born 1945 and before, and our baby boomers, born 1946 to 1964. Do we have actually any builders or baby boomers in the room here? Excellent, welcome, fantastic. What about, you've got some Gen Xers, born 1965 to 1979. Any Gen Xers? Dominating here today. And you're the generation that you never hear a presentation on, right? You're that generation kind of stuck in the middle. And it's like they talk about the older ones, they talk about the younger ones, and you don't get your moment. So here's your moment. And now we're going to move on. Then we've got our famous millennials, our Gen Ys, born 1980 to 1994. Have we got any Gen Ys in the room? Hello, fellow Gen Ys. That's great. Here we are. We actually do have a work ethic. We're at a conference. We're not, skipping it. Here we are. But we were very challenging to the workforce when we started entering it because of the way that we'd grown up with technology. But then we've got another generation who are actually already in our workforce, Gen Z, born 1995 to 2009. Are there any in the room? Probably not yet in a CEO conference. However, they'd want to have been the CEO by now, right? They are already about 1 in 10 in our workforce, and they'll be about 3 in 10 in our workforce by 2025, okay? And so they are aged up to 24 this year, and so they're entering our teams. And so trying to understand this generation, what I did is took time to interview many Gen Zs and just took time to listen to them, and their quotes fill this book that I wrote. And actually the last chapter is the most entertaining one because it's just a glossary on how to speak Gen Z, if you're wondering what all those words are, but a bit more on that later. And so I tried to listen to them and understand, well, what is it that makes your generation tick? How do we actually engage you? What's actually going on? Because it's easy to just think, oh, they're entitled, oh, they're disengaged, oh, they're apathetic, they don't want to work hard. But scratching beneath the surface, I found there was a whole lot more going on. And so in the brief time that we have today, I'm just going to give you a quick overview of some of the things that I've found really motivates them at work. What is it that they're looking for in a workplace? The first is they're wanting a friendly environment. Friends really matter to Gen Zs. In fact, they're spending on average 2.7 hours a day connected to social media, constantly connecting to people. And when it comes to the workplace, they want an environment that's friendly, not a difficult one, not one where their manager or leader just seems so distant, up in the lofty office, far away, unapproachable, unreachable, scary. No. Because what social media has done in many ways is flattened the structures. They can connect with a celebrity, they can connect with a leader, they can connect with people on this platform which has kind of created a level playing field, at least when it comes to communicating. And they're looking for a friendly environment when it comes to work. They spend so many hours on this each day, and they care so much about what's happening in their world. This is one example of how much care they go to about communicating on these platforms that you might not have known about. If you're mad, you finish your sentences off with a dot. People will say, why are you mad? You normally don't use full stops to end your texts. You use extra letters at the end of a word, or you use an emoji. I taught Mum because every time she did a dot at the end, I thought she was mad at me. It's blunt, it cuts off. There you go. Did you know that? Did you know that your full stops at the end of a text message are communicating something entirely different to this emerging generation? They put a lot of effort into their online communications because they want to get the tone right. They want it to be friendly. They want it to communicate the right tone. When they come into a workplace, they care about this as well. However, what we've got is what one researcher calls absence presence. Because we're managing our virtual world now and then we've got our physical world, what happens is that we can be physically present right here in a conversation with you, but emotionally I can be absent, wondering if I got Instagram likes on that post I just put up. I'm wondering if that person's texted me back. I'm wondering if they did reply because they didn't instantly reply and now I'm getting stressed. And so they're kind of managing these two worlds, and we've got this dichotomy called absence presence which has appeared. As some of these young people explained to me, the lack of face-to-face interaction due to social media has really limited some of their face-to-face communication skills. They've lost some of the face-to-face connection and communication skills, but it doesn't mean that face-to-face is not important to them. Sometimes they don't have the confidence, they haven't had the practice, they don't know how to engage, they don't know how to maintain some of those conversations with strangers or keep eye contact or whatever, but it's skills that we can actually help build in a workplace for them. Just as your baby boomers needed some professional development when they came into the workplace, so will your Gen Zs. It will just look quite different, and it's probably more around those interpersonal skills. Taylor said, I would like to work in an environment that is vibrant and there's always something to do. I would also like to work with friendly colleagues who generally care about my well-being. An easygoing environment, approachable co-workers. It went on and on with them talking about how they want friendly environments, cooperative and caring team, as well as an encouraging environment. I think in this era, our workplace culture matters more than ever. And that's the thing that is invisible but incredibly powerful, and it's what's going to help motivate people to become intrinsically motivated in their work if it's a culture that facilitates that. Okay, quick little activity, 1, 2, 3, 4. You need someone next to you, and when I say 1, you both put your left palm out like this. On 2, your right pointer finger and your right hand to the ceiling. On 3, that finger goes in their hand, and your pointer finger goes in their hand, okay? So it will sort of look like this, but your finger will be in their hand, okay? And then on 4, you've got to get your finger out of their hand, but you've got to catch their finger, okay? So you get your finger out and you catch theirs. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, like that, okay? All right, see how you go with someone around you. Quick little activity. Okay, ready? 1, left palm out. 2, pointer finger to the ceiling. 3, your finger is in their palm. 4. Okay, one more go at that. Ready? One more go. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. Very good. Well, one quick illustration from that one quick game, and there was a whole lot of eruption of laughter in this room. Imagine if I'd said to you, get out your phones and scroll your favourite app or play your favourite game. There would have been nowhere near the interaction or engagement. And just because Gen Z are very comfortable with screen-mediated communication and they've grown up with a lot of that and they're very savvy at it, it doesn't satisfy the deeper needs as a human for real relationship and real connection. And they are really looking for that in their workplace environment, as I think probably all the generations are. And so don't be fooled and think it all just happening on their 2.7 hours a day on social media. Actually, that's not satisfying. They're looking for more. Another thing they're looking for is fast-paced variety. Fast-paced variety. This is what Brooke said when it comes to learning. For school, I just Google it. Why go to my textbook? What's the point of flicking through 10 pages in a textbook when I could just Google it? I mean, the burden of the 10-page flick. It's really quite hilarious, but this is the world they've grown up in, absolute instant answers. When I was speaking to Gen Zs, many of the younger ones said to me, oh, for homework, I just ask Siri. Because Google gives you too many words. So they're doing homework with artificial intelligence. You think about it, your idea of an encyclopedia looks something like this. Their idea of it is like this, one that is instant, one that is always updated, and one that they themselves can update and change. It's led to what one researcher calls continuous partial attention. With so many attentional shifts, it's hard for any of us now to focus on one thing for an extended period of time. Now, I know that's a challenge, and you needed to when you started working, and you had to do the boring work, and you had to just do that all day. But for these young people, it's like they have grown up in a world which has just been so dynamic and changing all the time and entertaining and all of that. Now, that's not necessarily all good. It's not necessarily all good that they've got short attention spans. But one thing we can do to help engage them is create variety in their job task. Different things every day. Creativity, acceptance, fun but productive. Fast-paced, not boring, or the same every day. Speaking of what's not the same every day, their language. And I've got to give you 30 seconds to work out if you can understand some of their words with your fellow colleagues at your tables. Okay, there's lit, TBT, NGL, spill the tea, HBU, WUD, ILI, IRL, RN, salty, SMH, POS. There are no swear words up there. Can you take 30 seconds to work out how to speak Gen Z? Okay, let's do this together, everyone. Let's do this together. Okay, call it out if you think you know what it is. What do you think lit is? Cool, yeah, really cool, really awesome. Just call it out. What do you think TBT? Throwback Thursday. It's when you post something on Instagram from like way back, like Throwback Thursday. On Thursdays, you can post something from back in January when I was on holidays in New Zealand, TBT Thursday. Or you can, yeah, random, I know, but hey. Here we are. NGL, not gonna lie. There you go. Spill the tea. Gossip, spill the beans. What's the latest gossip? HBU? How about you? And I know about starts with an A, but I think spelling went out the door with those full stops. W-U-D? Can't spell? What you doing? What are you doing? Yeah. Illy? I love you, yeah, but not romantic love. It's just sort of like how they end a text. Illy, I love you. IRL? In real life, RN? Right now? Salty. Is there anyone salty today? Bit moody, bit grumpy, you're feeling salty. So just call out your colleagues in a meeting if they're feeling grumpy on a Monday morning. SMH? Sydney Morning Herald, yes. That too. But this is shaking my head. And POS? Yeah, point of sale. I think that's a great one. But for them, this is actually parent over shoulder. So if you've got a Gen Z at home and they're just on there, you know, chatting online, and then you come over, they'll just tell their friends POS or MOS, mum over shoulder, and so forth. So there you go. And now it does have to change because we know about it, that's right. But things do change really fast in their world, and actually creating that sense of variety and ownership over what tasks they can do at different points in the day can really help with engagement. Flexible delivery, not just obviously the 9 to 5. Innovation, involvement in decision making, freedom of work. Hours based on completion rate of given work and content. Not a 9 to 5 work week might not be as efficient. And so how can we measure on productivity and output, not just how many hours we sat at the desk? They're looking for a fulfilling purpose. They've been told they can change the world, and they want to change the world. They're globally aware and connected, yet they want their career to be a vehicle that they can express meaning and have an impact on this world and make it a better place. They genuinely want that. They don't want just, you know, just the money and all those things. They actually really want to make a difference. Maslow's hierarchy talks about how we need survival and security, and those things are really important. And older generations, when it came to work, that was the focus. But as we go up, for a younger generation who had a lot of that provided for them, they're looking for social needs to be met, which we talked about, self-esteem needs, contributing and feeling like they can make an impact. Self-actualization, that's having that sense of fulfilling purpose. And they're looking for that in the context of their work. They have identified a more fundamental need than the need for survival, and that's the need for Wi-Fi wherever they go. Work needs to be varied, fast-paced, and must make a difference. I want to feel passionately committed to my work and genuinely enjoy or have an interest in what I do, have a purpose-driven career that motivates me to wake up and give my all each and every day. And finally, they are future-focused. They know that the world is changing at a rapid pace, and they're expected to have 17 jobs across 5 different careers, many of which won't even have been developed yet. They'll be working the growth sectors at the moment: renewable energy, cybersecurity, biotechnology, virtual reality, artificial intelligence, and so forth. It's always changing and growing, and they know that they need to learn new skills if they're going to remain relevant for their future of their careers. A job where you have the ability to always be learning new things really matters to them. That's a very quick overview, but I know that in all of this you think, yes, these are what they want, but there's also challenges, and there are challenges, and we don't have time to unpack all of them now, but one of them certainly is the shorter attention span. This is what Oliver said. I think our attention span is extremely short, and anything that catches our eye distracts us with so much stuff going on. I think it might be a bit difficult when we get jobs. Oliver, I think you're onto something, but I want to encourage you that Gen Z have a lot to bring to the table. They are very agile and adaptive, they're creative, they're innovative, they're fun, they're passionate, and we can engage them so they're not like this guy who couldn't be bothered moving the stick and was apathetic at doing his job. Thank you so much.
Wonderful stuff. As Claire and Leisa make their way up to the stage, we're going to have a quick Q&A with them both, so make your way up to the stage. Please give them a round of applause. 2 wonderful presentations there on customer experience, and in particular through the lens of Gen Z. We've got one microphone going around during the year, so just wave your hand in the air if you'd like to ask a question from the floor. Come on up, guys. Come and have a seat here. We've got some lovely lounges for you. Not as comfy as the King Living lounge area, I must say. Don't forget to drop your cards in there if you want to win the $1,000 prize. I'll start with you, Leisa, because you're the first person here. You said don't just go validating existing ideas when you do research and look within your organisation. but in particular with customer experience, changing customer experience in any substantial way is really scary for people and for organisations. Where do you get the courage to consider a genuine overhaul of your customer experience, given how reticent, especially more mature customers can be to change?
Oh, I thought you were asking about reticence within the organisation to change, which is a problem in and of its own. I think that actually, I mean, whenever change is rolled out, we do experience this thing called change aversion. You know, you've moved my cheese, something's different for a short period of time. That means that people will often react negatively to change. If you've done change well, that very quickly corrects. So I think you need to prepare yourself for the fact that if you are rolling out change, you will see this little blip where people are cross because you moved their cheese. But if you've done it well, and if you're confident that you've done it well, you can believe that very quickly that will revert and get back into much more happier, satisfied customers.
With Gen Z having come up through a lifetime of changing technologies that we older people are going to go, wow, that has just constantly been like that, are Gen Z less reticent to disruption in things they use and customer experiences and things like that?
Yeah, I would say they expect change to be built in, like continuous sustaining innovation. Of the big disruptive innovation they're expecting and looking for that to continue to disrupt in whatever area, but they're also wanting things to always improve. They've got a big appetite for change, and they also fear irrelevance. So if we're using technologies that or systems or processes that were so 5 years ago, that to them is like, quick, jump off this thing before it goes down, because I've got to stay relevant. I've got to keep learning and changing. It's the only way they know how to live. So I'd say they're more open to it in general as a generation.
I can back that up a little bit actually. In the research that we do, we know that people who are hiring into technology teams, very often the systems, the software, the tech stack that organisation is working to is a deciding point as to whether or not they'll come work for your organisation or not. So staying abreast of that and making sure that you have actually got good systems and good tech choices in-house is really important in terms of actually gaining good talent.
And that actually work, not just that are gimmicks or not just, but that they're looking for things that actually work and make sense and think, yes, that's the best efficient way to get things done.
What would you like to ask?
Leisa, it's a question for you. In your example of Jira, you ask your customers what are the top tasks they do on Jira. Isn't it ultimately totally product-centric? How do you build innovation if you only into Jira, if only ask what are the tasks that they do into Jira?
So that's precisely the point that I was trying to make, which is that if you ask people only about your product, you will only find out about your product, and often a very kind of skewed view of that as well. So the transformation that we were getting was moving away from saying, what do you do in Jira, and actually moving towards going, well, what are people doing when they're using Jira? So for us, that's like they're developing software. So instead of asking about Jira, we ask, what are you doing? What's really important in a software development environment? When you're shipping software for your customers, what do you care about? And that's where you get that completely different view and that understanding of how your product fits into the job that your customers are trying to get done.
Can I ask you, Leisa, because Atlassian's mainly dealing business to business in that sense. Some people in the room here would deal, they think, mainly business to business. Others would think they deal business to customer. In terms of customer experience, is it more important if you're business to customer or still business to business? Do you need customer experience to be a big part of your focus?
That's an excellent question. I think traditionally we've always thought that where customer experience comes into play is really in the B2C land, but I think, as we sort of mentioned before, that's really starting to shift. We know employee experience and employee engagement is more and more important, even though in the survey that I showed, talent didn't rank particularly high. I think the reality is that getting good people to come and stay and be effective in your organisation is super important. And also, as younger and younger people come into the workforce, the expectations that they bring about what the tooling in-house is going to be like is increasing more and more over time. And so, the kind of software that maybe we have put up with for many years, where you leave all of your fancy, nice iPad stuff at home and then you come to work and it's like stepping back 30 years in time, that's less and less acceptable. So I think if we're looking to build B2B experiences for our employees and for our partners, then having that good experience is actually really differentiating from that point of view as well.
What would you like to ask?
Yeah, hi. It's a question for Claire. 2025, we're told about sort of top skills that are needed, and there's critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, all of those things. Obviously, what we've got is a picture of Gen Z being quite, I suppose, distracted. They're maybe lacking those face-to-face skills, although they want them. I just wanted to know sort of your opinions about how you can kind of make those things come to life, because I believe they require deep sort of concentration and skills to make those type of things actually work. And deep thought's the big thing I think everyone's missing right now, because you've got this creation of depression and mindsets that live around that generation because they can't sort of stay on one thing long enough.
Claire?
Yeah, I think great insight there that I agree with. We've created a society which has substituted depth for breadth, a very shallow soil in many ways. That's like, well, just what's the Google answer and for this generation, they've grown up where that's been validated. Okay, so as long as you can get the answer quickly, that's what's worked for them. So to help them move to a place where actually it might take a lot longer, this thinking that's slow but it's deep is a bit uncomfortable, or it's a bit unknown for them. They don't necessarily know how to go there. And I think through modelling and mentoring and showing actually this is how we solve that problem, that is how we're going to get there. However, I think the other thing is knowing the why is very motivating for them. Okay, so if we could help them say, okay, we need to wrestle with this till we get a functional solution on this way, and giving them a problem to solve can help them dig for answers. Because I think you'll find once they are engaged with a problem, their creativity really is unlimited, and they are, I think, a creative generation. But we need to hook them in on the why we're really trying to solve this and what the actual problem is, and and have probably a collaborative environment where they can bounce off people and find a solution together. Would probably help that. But I agree, we've got a challenge of the shallow, broad, and at the cost of the deep. And it's the same, like you say, anxiety and depression and all of that. People aren't stopping to let emotion process, and all of that. Everything's fast-paced and wired and hectic.
I think you can get more insights by reading Claire's fantastic book, Hello Gen Z, which you'll be signing over the networking drinks at lunch. So please give them both a big round of applause. Lisa and Claire, what a fantastic session. Tremendous stuff. Now, our next speaker is the founder and CEO of artificial intelligence fintech, Flamingo AI. Flamingo AI is at the cutting edge of cognitive virtual assistant and knowledge management techniques. Flamingo is only the second ever business to list on the ASX with both a female CEO and chair. So with a PhD in organisational behaviour, our next speaker was the 2018 AFR Most Influential Woman in Business Entrepreneurship, the Woman in Finance FinTech Leader, Telstra Business Award winner, Australian Businesswomen Hall of Fame inductee, Piercy Foundation Award recipient, and recently named among the top 9 female entrepreneurs by the Sydney Morning Herald. She's also a philanthropist, human rights activist, and mother of 5. Reading her CV reminds me of that famous Australian saying, "Pull your head in, pal. No one likes an overachiever." Here now to talk on the topic of artificial intelligence, the CEO imperative, Flamingo, their CEO, Dr. Katrina Wallace.
Thank you, and good morning everyone. It's great to be here in this beautiful room in Sydney on this beautiful land. So it's very important for me to start out before I talk to you and acknowledge the traditional owners of the land here in Sydney. So I would like to acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, pay my respects to their ancestors past and present, and also welcome and acknowledge any Indigenous people in the room with us today. Well, today I'm going to spend the next 15 minutes talking to you about this topic of artificial intelligence. And it is a topic that some of you will know something about. Others of you will have either seen Westworld or Terminator and have some idea of what's going to happen to us. And others of you will go, well, look, I hear it, but I don't really know what it is. So my purpose today is to talk to you about why artificial intelligence is indeed a CEO's imperative and an absolute number 1, 2 or 3 strategy that you as either large business, medium businesses or small businesses need to have. Now, I'm not going to do a presentation deck. I'd much rather talk to you and have a conversation with you. And as we go through, I'm going to get you to do a few exercises where you start to think about what this world of artificial intelligence is, how it's going to affect you both professionally and personally, how it's going to affect your businesses and even your children. So let's start out and define what artificial intelligence means. But can I get maybe an idea in the room of who's pretty confident that you know what AI is? Hands up. Yeah, there's a few of you kicking around. Let me tell you what it is. So artificial intelligence has in fact been around since 1956, where the term was originally coined by some professors at Dartmouth University in the UK. And it really was then that they recognised that computer programs could in fact mimic human intelligence. And so that was very exciting in the 1950s. However, there were two things that stopped it coming of age. So the first thing that stopped it being around so many years ago was the lack of computational power to generate and run the algorithms that are able to result in anything being artificially intelligent. And the second thing was the lack of big data to train the algorithms to do anything. So even though we've been around it, in 1970 we thought we were at a stage where AI was about to come into place, and then it just didn't, because we didn't have the data, we didn't have the algorithms, and there was no other business forces at play. So we call that the first AI winter. Then we've come around to now what we call really the fourth revolution, which is following agricultural revolutions, industrial revolutions, and knowledge revolutions, to now having already entered what we believe is the next revolution or evolution of business. And I'm going to tell you why that is in a moment. So AI has been around for a long time, and essentially artificial intelligence is any computer software that can mimic human intelligence, and it's normally done either through decision trees, rules, if and then type programs, or more significantly, machine learning. So machine learning is a type of artificial intelligence where the machines themselves can learn and get better with experience and get better at doing tasks. So my area of expertise in my company, we do machine learning. So we've invented software robots that can guide customers through their purchase experience, their onboarding experience, their service experience. We have a machine called, so that's Riley, who does service, Rosie, who does customer sales, and Maggie, who does inquiries. And I'll talk to you this morning about why the artificial intelligence producers tend to call these robots by women's names. And then we have Libby. So Libby is a machine who's able to ingest large volumes of unstructured data, say like call center data, and use her algorithm to automatically generate new insights and previously unknown findings. So that's what artificial intelligence is. It's been around for a while, and now we are right in the era where this is going to take off like nothing we've ever seen before. So if we follow some of the big commentators in this field, the head of Google compares the coming of AI now to the same power as when fire was invented back in the day. The head of Baidu Research, the largest AI company in the world out of China, compares AI to the same power as the coming of electricity in the Industrial Revolution. Gartner predicts that 30% of all customer interactions will be done by machines, such as the ones we provide and other companies provide, within the next 3 years. 50% of all transactions and interactions being done in fast-growing companies by machines within the next 5 years. 40% of jobs in financial services, retail, hospitality, tourism being replaced by machines within the next 6 years. So ladies and gentlemen, we are at a time now where this is real, it's happening, and we're in it. And it's very important for you as leaders to understand what it is, to know how to develop a strategy around it, to know what the best use cases are, and also to know what can go wrong. So some of the other metrics we have, so the big speakers on this topic are Elon Musk, obviously. So the AI community was sort of divided between, is this all going to go really, really well, or is this all going to go really, really badly? So Elon Musk, as you know, one of the major developers of artificial intelligence and self-driving automated cars, he actually thinks AI will be the doom of humanity. That's why he's building space stations and SpaceX. He thinks it's all going terribly badly, and we'll develop automated weapons, we'll kill each other, and all the next wars will be AI-driven. Then you have people like Mark Zuckerberg, who obviously has been a bit of strife with his AI over the last couple of years, but a huge fan looking at AI really enabling humans. And those of us who kind of sit, I've got sort of a foot on either side of that divide. If it goes well, it will be the most profound different step up in not just business, but in humanity and our evolution that we've experienced in our lifetime. And when we're philosophers of AI talk, we talk about that the machines will come and in fact allow humans to be more human. And that's by taking away the mundane, repetitive tasks that we do either in business or at home, and allow humans to be doing things that are more human. Creative arts, science and basic science, problem solving, trying to deal with massive world issues such as climate change. All of this can be facilitated in a very, very positive way using artificial intelligence. However, we do know that there are already automated weapons being made. The Russians have a robot called Fedor, F-E-D-O-R, who is, they claim is not a machine to kill people, but the way they train its algorithms is it's shooting bullets at a target, and they keep correcting the algorithm so the target is right. There is a protocol across the world signed up by 150 countries that says that AI should not be used to kill or harm humans. Australia has not signed up to that protocol yet because the government has reserved the right to decide what they'll do with AI. Now, that's really disappointing, and I've had numerous conversations actually with Julie Bishop about Australia's needing to get on board and start to show some leadership. Because in Australia, 9% of companies currently use or have AI deployed, compared to over 20% in the US. So we as a country are really, really behind on this topic. We are laggards, absolutely recognised globally as being in the bottom half of countries that are our equals. We're really slow. We need to actually get up and step up into this. And not only need to we step up into it so that we can keep going, because it's predicted that $1.2 trillion will be taken over the next 3 years from those companies who don't do AI to those companies who do AI. And Elon Musk just uses the expression, he says, those of you who do not do AI will be crushed. There's no doubt about it, by those companies who do it. In the next 3 years, we will see 6.2 billion hours of work saved by AI machines that humans would have traditionally done. So it's a big, important and serious topic. So let's now get a feel of how you guys think on it. So what I'd love you to do is, I've talked a little bit about the state of the market, that it's here, it's now, it's growing, there's a lot that's been invested in it. So at the moment, there's this year, $7.3 billion being invested into artificial intelligence. It is the highest growing tech sector in the world. It'll increase by 12-fold over the next 5 years to $89 billion of investment. So it's profoundly important in this growth. So I think, I'm one of the optimists, so I think it's fabulous, and I think it can free us as business people to really start making that step change. So Accenture writes a lot about AI, and its consultants recently have written a book called Human Plus Machine, which I really encourage you to read. They're actually the two books I'd encourage you to read. Human Plus Machine, out by the Accenture consultants, and another beautiful book called the most human, how artificial intelligence helps us be more human. So those two books are good. What Accenture says is this. Currently, and some of you may be experiencing this in your own business, where we are with the traditional models of labour and capital and technology, it's all coming to a close on the back of the Industrial Revolution, where it's very difficult for you to grow. Very, very difficult for you to get the exponential growth that you would have once upon a time. And also, we see that digital hasn't really amounted to what it should have been. We all thought that digital was going to be the big transformation thing. It hasn't really been. For example, in financial services, globally, only 15% of revenue is generated by online sales in financial services. And this is one of the highest performing digital sectors. It needs to get back to where we predicted digital was going to go, it needs to increase to 45% in the next 3 years. How are you going to do that? More social media, more online chat? No, that's not going to be possible unless it's powered by something like AI. So the language I use is that AI is used to amplify your existing legacy systems, and it's used to augment your humans. And we should see a 30% improvement in humans who work with machines. So we call this HAMA workers, H-A-M-A, human-assisted, machine-assisted, or HAVA workers, human-assisted virtual assistants, where it is going to be very commonplace to have a machine or a robot who is your buddy or one of your teammates' buddies in the workplace. So back to Accenture. Accenture is saying the traditional models of labour, capital, technology have ground to a halt and they're no longer growing. So it will be AI that comes in as this power to force us into the next stage of rapid growth through amplification, augmentation of what you're already doing. Okay, let's see what you think about it. Love you to talk at your table with the person next to you. And let's get you into 3 categories. Let's think about if you are excited about this. The robots are here, the machines are coming, you can see how they'll be really beneficial in your business. Are you excited about it? Are you looking forward to it? So that's one group. Second group, you might decide, you might go, yeah, I don't know, really, sort of, I've seen, Hollywood movies, everything goes badly. I've seen Westworld, that was pretty exciting and disturbing at the same time. So that's a middle group, I need more information. So not sure, ambivalent, need more information, don't know enough about it. And the third category you could choose is, hey, I'm not a fan of this. I don't feel comfortable that we're now in a stage of human machines and the rise of the robots as such. So no, I'm happy to say that I'm not comfortable, don't think it's going to be a good thing. So let's go 2 minutes at your table. If you have a chat next to the person, tell them, and this is your personal view, right? Not necessarily your business view. Let's see how the room pans out. those of you, and you can just put your hands up, those of you who are kind of sitting in the middle, not sure if the rise of AI, this is a good thing or a bad thing, need more information, just happy and comfortably so to sit in the middle at the moment, not sure. How many of you are not sure how you feel about all this happening? Okay, that's a good chunky, that's almost half of you. Okay, good. Okay, who is happy to jump up and let us share with us their thoughts on why you're not too sure which way this is going to go or what you feel? Who'd like to do that? Great, and we'd love to know your name and where you're from. And have we got a roaming mic ads anyway? Yeah. Pretty loud voice. Yeah, or just really super loud. Exactly.
Thank you. My name's Duncan McComb from the Whole Estate. So I guess my concern or this uncertainty came from the impacts of it. I'm quite open. I like the idea of the productivity increases. I like all of the ideas. I'm reasonably confident we can address some of the rise of the machines and taking over. But what happens to everybody who's this great productivity increase, and how do we pay for all these people that don't need anymore and don't have jobs, and all the societal impacts of truck drivers in the US? There are states in the US where 10% of their population drive trucks. Yeah. Because they just move potatoes from the farms to the port. So I think that's my fear, is like, I don't understand how how economically we can shift to a place where we can pay people and support them.
Yeah. Right, this is a great concern, so thank you for sharing that, being so candid. Yeah, so the big thing that comes up is, what about the jobs? What about those 40% of workers in financial services or retail that we talked about that will have their jobs displaced over the next 3 years? So my experience, my business is based in Sydney and in New York, so we work with very large US financial services companies, and same here in Australia. Without any question, in every client that we go and work in, and our machines do customer service jobs, do sales jobs, do analytics work, the companies do not remove their staff. They in fact either train their staff into the harbour workers, or in fact free their staff up to be doing other work. So a lot of our clients say to us, oh, thank goodness you're here, we can get the machines doing this because we've got all of these customer complaints that we need to deal with, or we don't do well enough on our digital engagement, we'll put some more people over there. So at this point in time, we're not seeing layoffs or redundancies happening because of artificial intelligence. I can't say for sure that won't happen, but at the moment we're seeing companies who are doing this, freeing these people up to do other work. And then there's the other thing, right? Then there are the new jobs that are coming. So Claire, in her beautiful presentation, talked about the Gen Z having 5 careers, and a lot of these careers don't quite exist yet. Well, at the moment, we're one of the companies making those new jobs. So we've got a couple of brain trainers. So these are people that train the machine learning brain, train Rosie, Maggie or Riley's brain to learn about insurance or banking or superannuation or whatever we're doing. And that's their job. They are responsible for training the brain. And that's not a data scientist. That could actually be just someone pretty handy with business analytics who does that. We've got people who write the stories on the back of the transcripts that the machines produce. We've got other analysts who analyse Libby's brain and interpret the algorithms and what the findings are, and then present them. These are jobs that did not exist previously. We have auditors who now need to make sure that the bots are not going crazy and saying the wrong things, particularly in financial services. I held an event the other month which was called Post the Royal Commission, the role AI will play, _ our bots don't sell to dead people. It was a little insensitive, but actually it's true, right? So there is a whole then audit and compliance piece. So we do believe that new jobs are being created and will be created. Will there be some dislocation of individuals in jobs as this transition starts to happen? I think probably so. Now, if we think back to a similar time when Australia was super concerned about outsourcing and offshoring, and there was major political debate, do we send jobs offshore and it was all going to go badly? Well, it didn't go badly. In fact, for every dollar that Australia offshored to, whereas India, Philippines or anything else, GDP earned 1.42 cents. So in fact, we had an improvement on GDP as a result of that. Those of us in the AI sector think it will probably end up being the same, and the prediction is over the next 3 years that $2.9 trillion will be added to GDP globally going forward with artificial intelligence starting to build that out. Australia is quite behind, but the prediction is around $2 billion added to Australia's GDP over the next 2 years if we start to embrace and use this sort of technology. So we should be concerned by jobs, absolutely right. So I'm just in the process now of, over the next couple of months, launching a training program for young people, because the real challenge with AI is that 90% of the jobs that will be displaced are predominantly going to be women and minority groups. And this is personally something that I'm very passionate about. So we're looking at introducing a training program where we start to train up young people, women, minority groups, employees, so that they have the skills to work with AI. But this is a great concern, so thank you very much for sharing that. It is a concern and we all share it, appreciate it. Okay. Who is in the, I don't think this is a good idea and things could go very badly? Put your hand up if you are one of those people. Okay, there's a handful of you. Who would like to share with us what their thoughts are on that? Why you said that? I'd love to know your name and where you're from.
I'm Ricardo Hasselbach, I'm from Hubasuna. I work in a number of industries among them also defence. When I see what's happening in China, for instance, I fear that there is some real possibility for totalitarian regimes to completely abuse these type of technologies to create a very, very depressing future, really.
Yeah, right. And so we're seeing China is the largest AI country in the world, followed by India, and we're seeing some very interesting use of China using AI to control population. So I think that is a super valid concern, so thank you for sharing that. Okay, who is excited about it? Who's pretty excited that we're entering this era? Great. Yeah, a good number of you. Who would like to stand up and volunteer why you're excited? Okay, love to know who you are, where you're from.
Hello, Jeff from Technology 360. So I'm in the technology world, so it's fairly easy to figure out that I'm excited about this. We've done this before. We've created technologies globally that could have wiped us out and destroyed us. Everyone will remember the nuclear bombs. There was a lot of people that thought that was the end. But I have a great optimistic thought process about humanity and our ability to survive these sorts of things, and I don't believe we can hold back progress. It's more about how do we manage progress, how do we make it work for us, and hopefully it gets rid of all those banal, mundane things that we have to do, and we can be more into art and spirituality and all the good things that really is about what it is to be human. Thank you.
That's a beautiful response. Thank you very much. Gorgeous. Okay, so the last bit that I want you to share with you is some of the concerns that we have about AI. And this really, there's starting to be a lot more interest in this in Australia now. So the government has just put $29 million into creating a human rights and an ethics framework for artificial intelligence for companies or organisations in Australia who are starting to look at AI strategy. So when people go, okay, well, so what does that mean? Why do we need ethics and frameworks and human rights considerations around artificial intelligence? So here's the logic. These machines are very powerful and have the ability to learn and provide decisions on their own. So there's some examples of where AI has gone badly. A couple of these are this. Amazon had an AI recruitment app that was trained. So think of the algorithms. The algorithms get trained by humans, and then the algorithms start to learn and then interact with the world and then learn on their own. Amazon, one of the largest AI companies in the world, then had to abandon that because it was starting to only recommend males into technology roles, for example. So bias is already built into these machines, and that train has already left the station. So I have a quick final exercise I want to do with you so that you're aware of what we're talking about when we talk about bias and things that are challenging within AI currently. So I'm going to divide the room, and what I want you to do is get your phones out. I want you to Google something, right? And Google images. So get ready for this. Okay. So if we can go these tables, so 2, 23, 8, 6. If you could Google just CEO and just do Google CEO and just push images. This next group around here, can you do unprofessional hairstyles? You guys here do smartest people in the world. Can I have a bit of list with me? What else do you want to do? 3 black men. You guys do 3 black men. You guys down there do best dressed, and you guys over there do smartest people. Pardon? You can go to images, yeah. So just Google that. So we're going to do CEO, unprofessional hairstyles, 3 black men, best dressed, smartest people. Could even do best politicians. Okay, so whoever is there that can want to share what they see. So who's Googled CEO? What is the predominant thing that you see when you search for CEO? What is it? Men? Okay, got it. Okay, who's done 3 black men? Okay, what do you see? Criminals. Yeah, okay. Who did best dressed? All women. Okay, who did unprofessional hairstyles? What are they? Black women with afro hairstyles. Okay, what else do we have? Smartest people. Oh, it's like men. Okay, you do best politicians, it's men. So therein, ladies and gentlemen, are already the inherent bias built into the machines that are running our worlds. So it's now a time, we're at an ideal time for you as CEOs are the people that will lead this next revolution and next change. And you'll do that by starting to think about how you use AI, what the AI strategies are within your business, and doing it responsibly. So the things such as jobs, such as bias, can be overcome, and that you can actually benefit from what I believe will be the fundamental game changer for your businesses in how you use AI to amplify and augment what you already do. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.
Very interesting. We've got time for a decent Q&A here, so a couple of microphones will be moving around the room. Just grab the attention of people if there's questions you'd like to ask. Let me start by asking you something, Katrina.
Yes, Adam.
And I'm going to put you on, I don't want to embarrass you and make you do a big plug for your own product, but something like your Maggie.
Yeah.
So make it idiot simple. If I'm an organisation and I use Maggie, so what sort of organisation would I have been, and what does Maggie do for me?
Perfect. Okay, so Maggie is a virtual knowledge assistant. So think of this, any organisation, big, small, medium size. You have subject matter experts who are humans at the moment, and they're very smart, and people ask them a lot of questions, they answer a lot of questions. Then that human may think, oh, I'm going to go to a competitor, I'm going to leave, and out your knowledge walks with that human. So Maggie works with the subject matter expert and becomes a brain for your business that then can be inquired. So employees can inquire her, customers can inquire her, the CEO can inquire her. Quick example, we work with one of the big international banks here. They use Maggie for Knowledge as their internal subject matter expert. We fill Maggie's brain, we ingest all of their product details. Everyone from frontline person to the CEO asks Maggie questions on their device. She's like a virtual assistant that just retrieves information and gives it. Super simple, stand her up in 2 weeks. Very, very simple artificial intelligence product.
So we've all probably done something online where we've dealt with one of those artificial. What's the challenge in getting them from strictly they work, but they're really clunky and clearly a machine, to I genuinely don't know if John was a person or a bot on the end of that.
Yeah.
Is it language recognition? Is it speed? What's the real challenge to overcome that hurdle to where it is seamlessly pseudo-human?
Yeah, great question. So a couple of ways I'm going to answer that. So previously, when you were dealing with chat bots or web chat, it was not artificial intelligence. It was just rules and what we call template matching. So ask a question, that's matched. Simple. Now we have what we call unsupervised machine learning, which means that the machines have aggressive learning algorithms, so they can learn much faster than what they previously did and be able to provide a much deeper response. So this is that thing. But here's the other thing I just want you to think about too, again, philosophy.
So does that mean, mean, if I ask the same question a month later, a same complicated question a month later, I'd get a more nuanced and even more accurate response?
More accurate, yeah. So the machines will learn on every interaction, and we do what's called, unsupervised. So Maggie's going to listen and learn and observe, but then we do what's called reinforced learning. So then a human will go in and check and go, okay, that was right, that was wrong. So it's like, think of these machines like a 2-year-old child just starting to learn. Maggie, that was good, Maggie, that was bad, don't do that again. And then she mathematically weights it all. And then, so from now on, with where we are with AI, we should see much, much better take-up of that. But my very last thing was, you said ads. Adam's one of my good friends.
We know each other, you can call me ads.
These are not humans. Like, why am I calling Maggie Maggie? It's ridiculous. It's software, right? So the only reason we call these software machines Maggie, Libby, Riley, Rosie is because the lowest friction point between a robot and a human is when it has a young woman's name. But it's actually ludicrous, right? We should not have names for them. They're software. And I'd say within 2 years, Siri, Cortana, Alexa, all women, Maggie, Riley, Rosie, we'll get rid of those names, and we will all be just used to dealing with super smart software that helps what we do.
And one more quick thing, and then I'll take the question. People might have heard last year, for example, like Google took their learning algorithm that learnt the game Go, and then they gave it the game chess. They didn't play a single game against or anything. They just said, these are the rules of chess.
Yeah.
This network went off and played against itself millions of times for just 4 hours. Came back, beat the world's best dedicated chess computer. Strict asterisk, wasn't fully programmed with its opening book, but slaughtered the world's best chess. Played a level of chess that no human being will ever be able to play. Rediscovered all human tactics and tactics humans haven't come up with yet in a game we've been playing for centuries.
In 4 hours.
In 4 hours. Yeah. They gave it another couple of days, it didn't get any better. So it reached its maximum. That narrow niche is very different to a broad, like you ask that thing, yeah, but what's the temperature? And it doesn't even understand the question. Yeah. So what's the difference between narrow niche expertise and then actual functional intelligence?
Beautiful. Okay, so what Adam's talking about is what we call narrow AI. So when a machine learns a narrow thing and becomes an expert within 4 hours, beats humans at it. Narrow artificial intelligence. The next level of it is general artificial intelligence, which is like a Siri or a Cortana or Alexa, where it needs to understand general things. So that's why Siri is, they say about 90+% accurate, but you still get 1 in 10 things wrong. We're 2 or 3 years away from that getting close to 100% accurate. And then we have, so it's narrow intelligence, general intelligence, and super intelligence. So artificial superintelligence is at the time when the supercomputers become smarter than humans, actually teach themselves and potentially take over the world. So that is called singularity, the moment when the machines do no longer need human intervention. Now, ladies and gentlemen, is that in 1,000 years' time? Is it in 50 years' time? No, it's predicted to be around the year 2030 when the machines grow on the back of what Adam's saying, even that Go could do, to be at a place where that at a singular point that the machines actually will be smart enough to be able to teach themselves and learn themselves without human intervention at all.
Let's take a couple of audience questions. What would you like to ask, sir?
Apparently there was 2 computers, AI, and they basically started talking to each other secretly and had to shut them down. So my question is, why were they secretive, number one, and what were they talking about?
Yeah, it's
great. You know this one?
I do, yeah. So there's a lot of computers that talk to each other without humans. In fact, there's 5% of all economic transactions today in the world go on without humans even knowing that they're going on, that they've created their own place and go. And these are economic transactions. So what is interesting is that the machines can do that, and then if they do that, if you let the machines talk to each other long enough, they create their own language. So a little bit like Claire presented with the Gen Z, the machines have their own language as well. So these again, we're starting to look at the moment there's no legislation, there's no regulations, there's nothing that guides how these things should be. But what we are seeing now, a very famous Australian Dr. Alan Finkel is working on a certification program for AI machines, which will be out later this year, which will start to help overcome the machines are talking to each other, creating their own language, and will take over the world.
That particular one, just a note of warning on that people think, oh my God, they plotted and they created their own language and they were about to flick the switch and destroy us all, and so we had to kind of, strictly what happened with that was, from what I understand, it was an AI system that was meant to learn negotiation. So humans would negotiate with it and it would negotiate back and haggle backwards and forth in language. And there were a couple of systems doing that. And then they said, well, why don't we let those two systems just talk to each other and try and haggle and discuss? And because, as someone put it to me, who understands a lot better than I do, because human language is so loaded with inefficiencies and wasted words and all that, if we just wanted to haggle a price, it'd be boom, 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 boom. Those machines basically just cut out all the irrelevancies in communication and just got down to it, yes, no, 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 yes, 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 no, yes, no, no, yeah, blah, blah, billy, billy, bill, blah, 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 blah. And so it looked to us like weirdly off. It was just a sort of hyper extreme of them chasing it. It was not a weird new language that had been created that was about to foretell the thing just went bizarrely off the rails.
Which comes into another point too, right? So those of you who have children, who's got Alexa or Google Home or a device that they speak to at home? Yeah, okay, great. And if you hear your children speak to this, they'll go, Alexa, play Spotify Hot Hits. Alexa, you're an idiot. Alexa, order pizza. And I hear parents saying, oh my God, Susie, don't speak, that's so rude. You didn't say please and thank you. And we go, okay, it's not a human, it's a machine. And so we will start seeing our children, led by the Gen Z, starting to use different language when they're talking to machines, which we as kind of old people need to get our head around. These things are not human. They don't need the same language conventions.
Yeah. I find when my Siri addresses me, it has to call me sir. Right. What would you like to ask up the back, ma'am?
So I am Janetta Russell, my name. I'm really passionate about AI, and as I get older, I want to keep up with it, so I work hard on that. But my concern is there was at one stage they were talking about computers becoming more intelligent than human beings, and I laughed, but now I'm concerned the way children are being taught at school. A lot of the young people I'm talking to are quite binary in their answers and in their attitudes backwards and forwards. And now I'm beginning to think, well, maybe computers will become more intelligent because of the fact that the emotional intelligence is not being taught as much in schools, and it's going in that trend. Can I have a comment?
Yeah, you certainly can. So I think you're absolutely right. The school system that we have today, and those of you who are parents with school kids, it's completely archaic, particularly in Australia. It's 100 years old. It's the same rote learning. It'll be completely irrelevant. And we will see AI. So I spoke to a guy called David Chan, very famous Australian Singaporean, who's just developed a whole new preschooling system called Mind Change, based on technology and AI, that he's now got 50 preschools around the world. We will start seeing and need to see the breakdown of traditional schooling so that these new way of learning will come in, and the skills that children should be taught are all those things that you're talking about. Emotional intelligence, philosophy, negotiation, psychology, all of those things that are living skills, because the machines will be doing a lot of the stuff that they would have had to learn by rote. Great observation, thank you.
Two more questions to get through, down here and up the back, and then we'll wrap it up. What would you like to ask, sir?
Yeah, what about the impact on society about further reduction of human interaction? I mean, we're seeing it now of lack of or reduction of face-to-face contact, how people communicate. What impact do you see artificial intelligence having on that?
Yeah, well, it'll probably do two things. One, it will reduce it, so there should be more machines doing the human interaction. But what it should do is then free up real-time, important face-to-face interactions that are critically important for humans to do human things. So I think you will see it come away as organisations go, oh, we're just going to make everything automated, and so you'll see a decline in that. That'll probably go badly. And then, because where we are with AI, we've just been through the hype cycle. So those of you who tracked Gartner, the IT analyst, the hype cycle, oh, AI, everything is going to change the world, into the trough of disillusionment, which is, it didn't really change everything too much, out into sort of a plateaued area where companies are going, oh, okay, we can use it for this and we can't use it for that. But I think we'll see organisations throwing AI in, removing human interaction, then realising it didn't work so well, but we're putting it back in a different way than they did before.
I find that most of my relationships with women go through that hype cycle and then the trough of disappointment. But it's interesting because for the case of like radiographers, for example, people who look at scans and x-rays and try and spot what could be cancers, we've already got intelligent machines that can do that 1,000 times more effectively than a radiographer.
Yeah.
So you could be thinking right now, I'm screwed if I'm a radiographer, I'm out of a job. But no, what they're finding now is radiographers and people trained in those fields are spending 95% of their time now talking to patients who've got a bad result and saying this is what we're going to have to do, rather than spending 99% of the time going, nah, nothing there, nothing there, nothing there, nothing there. They're then sent the small number of ones that are really serious and they're having more in-depth human conversations because the machines are doing the sort of basic word processing those who go to the back.
Great example.
Up the back. What would you like to ask, mate? Final question from the audience. Fire away.
Hello. I'm one of the very excited people about AI.
You sound it.
Well, maybe the robot would have discovered that I was telling the truth and not what they think. But you know, I'm just interested in where we're at. I'm really comfortable with the idea of AI as an assistant to an expert, a human expert, or a human who's got, you know, there's some human interaction there to level out the mistakes. I mean, how would AI, for instance, cope with the tales we're having of a young fellow with Down syndrome being sold an insurance policy, for instance, or a psychotic patient a psychotic person giving answers which are just not comprehensible from a normal. They're not normal, but will give answers that the computer might act upon. So, what precautions are we now doing to protect people who are vulnerable in that way?
Yeah, beautiful. So one of the things that certainly in our company we have is disability assessments. So for people with disabilities are able to access and use the machines. But what we do know in things where English is a second language, there may be some verbal communication challenges, things like debt collecting, I've got a terrible disease and I need to communicate to my insurer. Actually, customers prefer to do that with a robot than with a human. So there's this kind of interesting, actually the machines can do a better job at that. But what we do know with the human rights framework that is still probably a year or so away from being in place is that it will look to protect that. And there will be criteria that AI producers must have that means that it's disabled friendly, and it would not put any minority group at a disadvantage. Because at the moment, I think you're right, I think it probably does. But if I can end on a very beautiful note...
I've got one tiny question and after your beautiful note, but fire away.
Of course. Is it related to that?
No.
Okay. So my beautiful note is this. So I wanted to have a really candid conversation with you, the audience today, about it's here, it's coming, it could go really well, there could be some bad parts of it, but largely I'm an optimist and I think it can greatly benefit what you're doing in your business. But it can also greatly benefit us as humans socially. So I just wanted to give two examples of two AI-based applications that I think are magnificent and really making a difference in a social setting. So one is the head product guy at Samsung has a child who is autistic and he's at university. And he was struggling to get to the right class, know what to do, know how to socialise, know how to speak to the teachers, and very, very suffering and very, very unhappy. So Samsung sponsored this head of their product to develop an AI machine, a virtual assistant, for children who have autism who are at school or at university. And the robot would guide the child through what class they have to turn up to, what their homework needs to be, how they communicate, what they need to say, if they're distressed, what they need to do. And it's been incredibly successful. So it appears just like it's like a little human face, and it guides, it is like the buddy of the child with autism who's trying to navigate their way through something that would be enormously difficult. Beautiful application. The other one, which is very interesting, is there's one for domestic violence. So this is for whether it doesn't necessarily need to be for women, for any person that is subject of domestic violence. They can have a virtual assistant who helps them monitor what's going on at home, helps give them advice, and helps alert if there's any imminent danger to them, rather than them needing to get on a phone or do something else. So it's a domestic violence virtual assistant. So you can see, which I think is extraordinary, right? So you can see how these machines can actually really start to help us on a social way, and also start to build better community.
Just in closing, this has been a wonderful presentation. A lot of people who are in the audience are probably sitting here going, okay, sure, I can see that's important. There's no way the people in my organisation at the moment would have the skills to bring us across to an AI future.
Great.
Is this the sort of thing that if people want to get, I presume there are people out there that you can get to come and look at your organisation and talk about where the potential points are and how you could make that transition, because it's a very new skill set to expect anyone in your organisation to already have?
Fantastic question, yeah. So those of you who are thinking about getting started, the very best way I think about it is start with a small proof of concept. So you find a vendor who does artificial intelligence or a consultant, and you can do small proof of concepts from anywhere from $10,000 to $100,000. $100,000 is actually a very involved piece of work. So it's no longer, oh, would I have to spend millions of dollars on IBM Watson? No, you don't. You can do very, very small proof of concepts, test and learn, start to develop your people's knowledge around it, see where it's best applied in your business, and then start to build out an AI roadmap. So that's a very good way, and a very good way to end this conversation today is, yeah, don't be intimidated by it. You can start small proof of concepts. You can do this for well under $50,000 to get something up, test and learn, and then start to build out your AI roadmap. But I do think for CEOs and board members here, this needs to be one of the top 3 topics that you have on how you're planning the next 3 years.
From Flamingo, Dr. Katrina Wallace. Give her a round of applause. One of the most impressive CEOs in the country, in my humble opinion. Wonderful, wonderful stuff. We have one more short presentation before we go to the networking drinks at lunch, where Claire Madden will be signing her books. I'm going to hand over to State Director New South Wales of the CEO Institute, Neil Rapley, to say a few more words. Neil, come on forward. I've got a microphone here for you. Give Neil a round of applause, and we will break for lunch drinks after this.
Well, I hope everyone's having a good morning so far. I certainly am. But it is tinged with a little bit of sadness for me, and for many people in the room. There's a significant absence at today's event. A syndicate chairman with the CEO Institute for almost 20 years, and most recently to Syndicates 46 in Parramatta and CBD-based 65, Peter Jolly epitomised what it took to be an outstanding chair. I only knew Peter for a short period, 6 months in fact, and I'm very grateful to have had that time. For those of you here that didn't know him, that is a great shame. And for those of you that did, you'll know what I mean. He was passionately loyal to the CEO Institute, and the New South Wales chapter without his involvement is still difficult to take in. His warmth, humility, genuine desire to help, his words of wisdom, his grace, and his ability to disagree with you in the most polite and elegant way shall be traits that I hope to learn from. He was someone that could always be counted upon, and he had the biggest smile that would always light up the room. I'm sorry my words just missed that picture. A highly experienced and worldly wise man, Peter was born in London, so like me, a fellow Pom, and he moved to Australia as an adult. A chartered accountant by profession, Peter had extensive experience in the Australian shipping and logistics industry. He was chairman and CEO of P&O Containers in Australia between 88 and 96, a director of P&O Australia between 87 to 97, and a director of Australian Water Services, which is a P&O subsidiary from 91 to 97. He was also director of P&O Containers in the UK between 92 and 96. Prior to coming to Australia, he'd been active in business in Africa in the 1960s and early 70s, including appointments in Ghana and Nigeria. He was an active member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants in Australia and was New South Wales chairman in 88 to 89 and national president between 93 and 94. Following his retirement from the P&O Group, Peter remained active in the Australian business community, including with the CEO Institute. One of his treasured appointments was to the Sydney Olympic 2000 bid, where he was a member of both the Finance Committee and the Communication Committee. Peter was also a member of the Trade Policy Advisory Committee to the Australian Minister of Trade in 96 to 2002, chairman of the Pacific Economic Cooperation Council, AUSPEC, between 95 and 99, and in the last decade, a director of Reliance Rail and chairman of Downer EDI. Peter Jolly received the Member of the Award of Australia in the Queen's Birthday List in 2000, and the citation read, "For service to the accounting profession, particularly through the Institute of Chartered Accountants in Australia, to the promotion of Australian trade in the Asia-Pacific region, and to the community." When Peter died suddenly in December, I had the unenviable task of sharing that heartbreaking news with his syndicate members and fellow chairs, many of whom had spent time with him at their Christmas meetings just days earlier. The shock, grief and upset were clearly evident, and as the news was sinking in, some wonderful anecdotes were shared with me, and I'll share a couple with you now. There was one from an ex-member that Peter had remained in touch with even when he'd left the CEO Institute, but the business was struggling. Peter called regularly with genuine concern, advice and encouragement, and they met up several times in the last 12 months. This was no business arrangement, it was just one friend helping out another. Or the other occasion where one of Peter's group needed some urgent advice. The member called Peter on his mobile whilst Peter was out shopping in the city. When the member asked if Peter would be free to meet up and discuss the issue in question, Peter said, "Where are you now?" The member replied that he was in his city-based office. "Good," said Peter. "I'm downstairs in David Jones, I'll be up in a minute." That was Peter. I'm very pleased to see both of Peter's daughters here today, Tanya and Giselle. I was privileged to attend Peter's memorial service several weeks ago and to gain a wonderful insight into Peter, the loving family man. It was a truly touching tribute, and today I'm hoping that the two of you will get further insight into Peter's involvement with all of us. One of our current chairs recently shared something that he asks his syndicate members to prepare when they first join his group. He asks them to write and present their eulogy and focus on what do they want people to say about them at their funeral and how do they want to be remembered. The chair said it is a very thought-provoking exercise and it highlights where a person is at and if the direction they are currently taking them is leading them to where they want to go. Stefan? I think Peter got that memo. Peter, you may not be with us today in person, but you are most definitely with us in spirit. Rest in peace, dear friend. Now, as we head off for drinks and then to lunch, I'd like everyone to please stand and join me in giving a jolly big round of applause and a cheer for a fine gentleman, Peter Jolly.